warm enough in this room. If you have any comments or questions, reactions to any of our speakers, just please go ahead and raise your hand and I will call you. Yes, gentleman in the back, very fast.
I am Attorney Ricardo Suma III from the National Food Coalition. I just wanted to ask Senator Grace what her thoughts might be on a zero hunger bill that has been filed with the House and the Senate. We are big fans of the advocacy against hunger of Senator Grace. This bill is called a zero hunger bill. It makes food not just a matter of charity on the part of the government, but a matter of legal duty. It fits in well and it considers the feeding programs that Senator Grace talked about. It goes further and contextualizes them in the language of human rights. As the UN Committee on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights has stated, food must be adequate, accessible, and culturally acceptable. This bill looks at the Brazilian success story discussed a while ago, but adapts it to the unique situation of the Philippines. House Speaker House Speaker Sonny Belmonte has already expressed support for this bill. I just wanted to ask Senator Grace what her thoughts might be and how open she might be to looking at this bill.
Well, thank you for calling my attention to that. You know, unfortunately, there are a lot of bills that are really good, but we don't even know they exist. I haven't really seen this, but it sounds good based on the premise that you gave, that it's not just about providing free food, but the sustainability of it and the ways that we can manage it. So I will look into it. I certainly have good partners in the lower house who, after my speech, have expressed interest for initiatives like this, Zero Hunger. So thank you, sir. We will look for that in our archive. Hopefully, hindi po inaamag doon. Inaagayo.
Are there any other bills that you know of that are still pending, either, well, in the Senate? Any of the NGOs here? It's a good opportunity to remind our senator and to look into them. Wala na? Okay, there's a quick question here from that was tweeted to us, sent to us. This is from Jem Agudo Cabreros. Is there any chance we'd be able to completely eradicate or address world hunger, or kahit na not world hunger, kahit Philippine hunger lang in our lifetime? Maybe that could be for Praveen or Secretary Soliman. Okay, Secretary Soliman. Yes, ma'am. Sorry.
If the question is, and if he is in the mid-20s, my answer is yes. Because if he's like 61, like me, maybe no. But if he's in his mid-20s, yes. Because as Senator Grace and Praveen already had said, it takes all of us. And the collaboration can really happen at the national level, at the provincial level, but even in your own communities. I'm sure all of you see in your own communities street children who roam around. I mean, you can do something about that. It is a collaboration of all citizens with the local and national government, legislators, any human being who cannot sleep because you saw a child sleeping in the street can do something. So it is possible.
But you have to be in your mid-20s.
Because he said in our lifetime. So,
Diba? Okay.
I strongly support the 20-year. Definitely, I think it can be eliminated in our lifetime, and hopefully in a shorter period of time. We actually believe that if every woman, child, has the right to adequate food in the appropriate way, and if women are empowered, if we are giving family farming priority. In fact, this year is the year of the International Year for Family Farming, and Philippines will be closing the International Year in about 2 weeks' time, on the 27th of November. Philippines will be carrying out the closure event for the International Year of the Family Farm. And if there are sustainable food systems, so it is definitely doable. And it is in the reach of all of us. I mean, a large group of you here today are NGOs. I mean, you have the ear to the ground. You have the ear to the people. You know what the needs are, and these needs are not unsurmountable. Yeah, and it's really good to see Senator Poe and Secretary Soliman here, because it requires both sides. It requires the legislation, which is the voice of the people, which is coming up. And it requires the government, through the executive body, to create the programs that will go back down to the people. So it's really good to see, and I truly believe that if we can make these two to come together, then we will be able to solve in our lifetime. And hopefully, I wish I was in the 20s as well.
I'm curious though for the NGOs who are here, because Secretary Soliman mentioned that you can do everyone can do something in your respective backyards. For the NGOs who are here, what have you been doing, and what has been working, and which you think could be replicated by other groups, so that hindi lang 20 something, siguro kahit naman 30s, no, umabot man lang sa lifetime. Yes.
Hi, morning everyone. Mark from Gawad, Kalinga. I'm in my 30s, so sec baka umabot pa ako. Just the question of Ma'am Chaya, no? Yeah, Senator Poe mentioned Busog Lusog Talino, which was a template for the blue plate for learning of Ateneo. Just last February, Gawad Kalinga got into the hunger issue because of Yolanda. We realized, Secretary, that our response cannot be just in our communities, and we're actually forced to go into public schools, an arena which is not our expertise. Just because of Yolanda, we were brought to places and horizons that challenged us truly to respond. And so, together, Ateneo and Gawad Kalinga piloted something in Kananga, Leyte, to do, Senator Po, an entire school feeding program, because it was tagged as a hunger program. And we did it for 20 days. And because of its success, we were able to launch something in Alang-Alang massively. So we're feeding 3,800 in entire schools in Alang-Alang today. But I think what I wanted to share with you is really, because of that, a few other mayors have seen what we're doing. And there is this small town in Leyte that have seen what we're doing, and they will attempt to do an entire town feeding program starting January to be a template. And I will warn you already, Secretary, they will write to you at March to actually, Susan Ang of San Isidro Leyte. They will write to you because they wanted to provide a template of an entire school feeding, entire town feeding program. And the reason being is when they presented the cost of, Senator Pope presented the huge figure, 42 billion to fund something like this for the entire country. But what got Mayor going was that she saw that actually 40 to 50% of that cost actually goes back to her town. So that it's not an expense, it's actually half an investment and only half an expense. So when we look at the 42 billion that we're gonna spend, we're actually just really spending half of that as expenditure for administration, transportation. Most of it actually goes back to her town. That's what got her hooked and said, you know what, I'm game for that because you're gonna spend that in my town. I'm gonna counterpart it for distribution and all of that. And so we wanted to share this with you because I think it's a model of number one, collaboration. GK is not a player in the hunger issue, but because of Jollibee and Ateneo, we were able to pilot something because of Yolanda. And so we'd like to invite you to see those efforts down there because I think it's a landmark effort. One of the greatest issues is transporting food. And so the mayor there had a brilliant idea of transporting it via habal-habal. So, which actually in Valenzuela, they're doing an entire city feeding. They're feeding 23,000. Of course, they can afford multi-cabs and all of that. Those won't work in Leyte. But the habal-habal might work in Leyte. And so I think we're finding some templates that might work for us. And so we're inviting really everyone to take a close watch at what's going to happen in San Isidro, because I think that's a good template for what Senator Poe and Secretary Dink has been talking about.
Okay, thank you. I think Praveen wants to say something.
I thank you for reminding me to what Senator Poe said. And I believe the term of 42 billion pesos was quoted as being expensive. I'd like to, if we could, I'd like to offer a consideration that we stop looking at this as an expense. It's not an expense. This is an investment. And it depends on what do we want to do. Are our children, are our youth, is our community worth that investment? And if the answer is yes, then it's on the plus side and not on the minus side. This is not an expense of the government. This is an investment by the government in its people. If you will recall, I began my thing saying, no one nation can afford to waste its main resource, and its main resource is its people. Yeah. So, if I may, with due apologies to Secretary Soliman and Senator Poe, I would not like to call this an expense. I'd like to call this really as an investment. We can do it.
Actually, sir, from the onset, I've been saying it's an investment. Well, but we look at it, of course, in terms of the number. We'll think of it as the government has to allot this budget. But indeed it is. And if we're scared of subsidies, then I said, let's think of this as an investment, not just a subsidy. Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
And just to, yes, very quickly on what you're doing, I think what we need to do is synergize and look at the the hunger project that we're doing with DARS, because it's very similar, and it's what you were saying. It's the investment redounds back to the community, because we're buying the products of the farmers from the community, feeding their own children. So I think the model of Blue Plate and this model should work well. So maybe we should consider looking at Leyte. Because we are in Region 8. Yeah, that's right. So, okay. So we'll get in touch with you in San Isidro to get things going by way of collaboration.
Okay, in the back.
Sorry, Secretary. The name of the program that we've launched is Kusina ng Kalinga. So just we could check it out. It's Hunger Ends Where Caring Begins. So just so we could check out the program.
Kusina ng Kalinga. Yes, please.
Good morning. I'm Carmen Zubiaga from the National Council on Disability Affairs. Good morning po, Secretary and Senator Grace po. We are now in campaigning for disability inclusive development. And we hope that in the future programming, especially when it comes to access to food, persons with disabilities, especially during disaster, should be given priority, or think about how can they access to food. Because recently in the last during the Yolanda post-disaster operations, many of our persons with disabilities in Tacloban and other parts of Leyte claimed that they were not even reached by food subsidy, but because of a certain, because in one barangay, there was a group of persons with, there is a quarter or an office being used by persons with disabilities, and it happened that it was reached by the waves. And the waves left them with so many fish, which made them survive for a few days. But what we are after here is that we should look at the vulnerable sectors like persons with disabilities to have food, to have access to food, because we know that malnutrition is one of the major causes of disability. And now we have around with WHO estimate of 15% of every population as persons living with various disabilities. Majority of them were people with intellectual and psychosocial disabilities, which usually is a result of malnutrition. So we really have to take this seriously. And we also would like to support Senator Grace, because we really is the sector that requires investment for us to participate in inclusive economic growth. So we feel that disability support services should also be a part of the investment, so that these persons will be tapped to be participants in inclusive economic growth. Thank you very much.
Male naman. Okay. Yes.
Male? Male. Okay. Male. Sorry. Kala ko male. Okay, good morning to everyone. I am very much inspired and encouraged and by the efforts of Rappler, by the Hunger Project, also by the addresses of Senator Poe, Secretary Dinky, Mr. Parabim Agrawal. I am Father Martin from Father Martin Bros. I come from Argentina. Since 1999, I have been working in Payatas and for Payatas in different feeding program projects, education and health, and also through evangelization of the spirituality that is also very necessary for a logistic help to people. And I'm very happy to see that some of the kids that were in the feeding program 15 years ago in Payatas, today they are either young graduates working for different companies, and some of them are still in college. So I can see that all the efforts that we do through time, we can see the fruits. That is an encouragement for us to keep on working, that it is possible to end hunger in our lifetimes. I'm late 30s, hopefully I can abot ako. Yes. One of the projects that I wanted to share with you that we have in Payatas for a few years now is we call it Peanut Butter Project. It is a project that we done in our daily feeding programs. We help those who are underweight. We use the height for weight chart. But then in our peanut butter project, we have a production room, and we make a composite of, it's 25% peanut butter. It has sugar, milk, oil, and vitamins that we ship from the US. And then we feed this to severely malnourished children and moderately malnourished children. They are in the program for 3 months. And then we target those who are 5 years below, 1 to 5. And the target is to help them to attain a normal weight. I wonder if, this is a small scale project that we have here in the Philippines, that in Malawi, in Africa, there is a big and huge factory, probably you know about that, and then the UN and Doctors Without Frontiers are buying and purchasing the products made by our partners, who are the sponsors from the Dr. Manari Group and ready-to-use therapeutic food based in America. So that is our project that we have, and I just wanted to share with you. It was recently featured in Rappler. Yes, and then there are some in our Facebook site, Payatas Serene Foundation. You can have some updates as well. And thank you very much for what everyone here in this room is doing to fight hunger. And we will do it. We will succeed. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Father. Okay, in the back.
Hi, I'm Anne Racoma. I'm from Habitat for Humanity. We handle the volunteer program. So in Habitat for Humanity, our core competency is really on shelter. But in relation to this, we also help the communities that we are building. So one of which is syempre hunger, addressing the issue of hunger. While our communities that we develop is not really concerned about hunger because they are already developed and we help them. But in volunteer program of Habitat, we also tap different companies and NGOs, partners, etc. My question is actually directed for World Food and siguro our government officials here that we have with us. What programs or campaigns that you may want to share toward the majority of the masses so that we can be part of, especially if we have volunteers all over the country. We have volunteers from other countries that also visit here, and they want to help out not only in addressing shelter problem of the country, but also hunger and the other needs of our Filipino people. How can these groups help out, and how can Habitat be part of this greater cause that we are doing in helping alleviate poverty in the country? Thank you.
Okay, if I were to sharpen the question a bit, I think what you're asking is if there were 1 or 2 programs of government that you want volunteers to be part of, what would those programs be?
We partner with Habitat for Shelter. And I think the one immediate thing that we can do with your volunteers is start daycare programs and feeding programs in all the transitional shelters that Habitat is making with us, and or the new settlements that you are making with us. That is an immediate effort. So,
Like Gawad ng Kalinga. No?
well, like what Gawad is doing in the communities that you're helping build. The other thing that I think you can help is what Senator Grace and I are now thinking of, really looking into having, as the law is being done, you can already adopt schools so that you can already provide the lunch or the supplementary feeding in any school that you think you can work on. But to be more targeted, what we can do is get the data from FNRI, where they know and tell us where the high malnutrition is at wasted children, and you can provide the feeding program there. And I agree with the thinking of Senator Grace that you cannot choose. It has to be everyone in the school. It cannot be that we'll bring them into one room and these are all the wasted children and we will feed them and the rest will not be eating. No, it cannot be. It
Parang
has
may
to be.
stigma pa.
Oo, it has to be everyone. In the daycare, lahat talaga, mataba, maliit, payat, they all get fed the same. Because the psychological impact on the child is really very bad. Aside from the fact that the difference is not really big. I mean, you know, when you say, oh, malnutrition siya ay wasted. And the one that's not malnourished, not wasted, is probably 1 or 2 notches far from being wasted. So let's feed everyone in the chosen school, and let's choose schools that already had been identified as an area where malnutrition is high.
Yes, please.
And to add, thank you for your interest. Actually, as an example, if you guys have time, visit the Philippine Christian Foundation School in Balot, Tondo. This is supported by private individuals from the UK, but you can see the performance of the kids there. They have a lunch and breakfast program, and the performance and the evaluation of these kids is fantastic. They have dancers already partnered up with Miss Lisa Makuha. They have ballet dancers. But aside from that, you can see how the kids are more academically viable. They're achievers in class, and attendance rate is at 100%. And parents are also helping. They have handicrafts. If you want to buy your Christmas gifts, pag tinatanggal nyo yung, alam mo yung soda cans, tinatanggal nyo yung metal sa ibabaw, they've made beautiful purses out of this, necklaces, etc. But they're using that to subsidize also their feeding. Yeah.
Okay, Praveen, you wanted to add?
I just wanted to say that I fully agree with what Senator Poe and Secretary Soliman has said. And I would urge that it not be just one thing or another, but to help the communities to look at this in an integrated manner, to work with the municipal authorities, to work with the barangay captains, because it's not just going to be the school. It's not just going to be the mother and child. Yeah, it has to be all the activities that are done that build on each other. So with the SWD, in the works that we're doing as well for program, we're looking at communities in its entirety, in its totality, and saying, okay, if we have a program which is generating income, such as a fish pond, then do we have the resources as a group? And can we bring others to the table that will look at the issue of schools? Or can they look at the issue of health, of mother-child health care? So this requires collective thinking, and it requires inclusivity. So it isn't going to be just one or the other line department or a particular administration. So if we want to reduce or eliminate in our lifetime, we need to do it collectively, because once again, you can eat and you can get this result. And this is also malnutrition. Okay? So it is not just eating. It is the totality of it, and we need to ensure healthy. And as several people have said today, we need to ensure that there is a collective improvement. So it's the houses, it's the water and sanitation, it's the food, it's the intake, it's the diversity, it is the income generation. So as a whole, to seek integration.
All right. Tony, yes, and then Marilen.
Hi, good morning. Magandang umaga po. Tony Lambino from the International Rice Research Institute, IRRI, in Los Baños. Just wanted to share the sense of admiration and inspiration for all of our colleagues in the room who work at the front line of alleviating poverty and hunger. It's really inspiring to hear about the stories from the field, on the ground. And that is particularly inspiring for us because we believe in the same mission, in the same goals of attaining food and nutrition security, but our work is rather upstream in the process. Because IRRI, as you probably know, is an international independent research organization. The focus is really on agricultural science. But allow me to reiterate the refrain of partnership and collaboration, because anything that we do in any country is really in partnership with the country system. So in the case of the Philippines, the Department of Agriculture and PhilRice, and depending on the issue, possibly also FNRI and NNC in the area of healthier rice. So just wanted to also share what we think works from the agricultural research side of things. One area of research is in climate change ready rice varieties. And when I say climate smart varieties, I mean drought tolerant, flood tolerant, salinity tolerant types of rice, heat tolerant, cold tolerant, etc. And a lot of hours are spent just figuring out what kind of crosses need to be made from wild relatives of rice to popularly cultivated relatives of rice, etc. But the bottom line is addressing climate change challenges through agricultural research is like building in risk insurance for the farmer. Because a farmer does not know whether she or he will be hit by El Nino or La Nina or a storm or whatever, especially given the changing climate. The second area and by the way, very happy to share that in Asia alone, around 10 million farmers have access to these climate change-ready varieties, stress-tolerant varieties, if you will. The second area of work is still in the research stage, but this is in the healthier rice varieties area. And when we say that, we mean biofortifying rice in beta-carotene or provitamin A, iron, zinc, looking at low glycemic index rice for diabetes, looking at brown rice also, no, as a healthier alternative, and trying to encourage people to shift preferences in that area. But the point being, if we build in micronutrients into the staple that is consumed by maybe 70% of the poor people in the world. No? I mean, rice is the staple for half of humanity, so 3.5 billion people. If we're able to build in these micronutrients, then we can contribute to solving the problems of not just hunger, but hidden hunger as well, no? Micronutrient deficiency. And so that's like building in the work toward nutrition and food security into the staple. Yeah. Another area of work is in better farm and crop management. One example of this actually is an online tool called Crop Manager. There's one for rice, there's one for corn, at least here in the Philippines, 5 other Asian countries, and 4 countries in Africa. These tools are being evaluated. And essentially, it allows an extension worker or anybody in the community to help a farmer by inputting some data about a particular plot of land and receiving crop management advice, 1 page of crop management advice. And on average, this increases in the Philippines at least, it has increased income for 1 hectare of land by around $100 per crop. And that means a lot to a farmer in the field. So this is free and it's online, so it has the potential for wide access. In the Philippines alone, there have been 200,000 sheets of advice that have been provided to farmers. And it's estimated at around $3 per advisory service for the farmers. So lastly, would really love to continue the conversation on the long-term contributions of perhaps agricultural research to food and nutrition security. We would love to host a conversation at Erie if you're willing to come to Los Baños. So anybody, please just get in touch with us and we would be very happy to host you there for a visit. If I may ask a leading question to our panel, which I hope will be a leading question, but it's a biased question, that's for sure. So, in your view, Senator Poe, Secretary Soliman, Mr. Agrawal, we're already in partnership on other things with the World Food Program. What is the role of agricultural research in attaining food and nutrition security? Yeah, thank you.
What is the role? You play perhaps one of the biggest roles so that we don't make that much mistakes and trial and errors. I was in the Erie a few years ago, and I see those stakes that says drought resistant, variety, and all that. I'm curious. Actually, I wanted to ask you a question while you were speaking. You said there are about a few millions in Asia that the farmers that have benefited from this. But about Philippine farmers, are you providing them with free seeds? I mean, how does Erie actually work? Because I know the institute is here, but it's privately run. But the drought resistant, I know that we have about how many millions of hectares that are not yet irrigated. So how does this actually work? You don't need to water as much, or how often or how less frequent do you have to water? And do you have farmer beneficiaries, or do they have to buy seeds from you? And like other patented seeds, do they have to keep buying it every year and they can't cultivate it themselves? I mean, these are questions that are probably I have to go to Erie. You don't have to answer me now, but it's out there, so please submit to me a paper because I'd like to know that. Thank you.
When is the deadline for the submission?
I think it is a very, I would like to second the opinion of Senator Grace and highlight the fact that the research should actually be focused on the capacity, the situation of farmers in different parts of the country, because we do have different agroclimatic situations, and therefore that's one. And second, I really have been an advocate and will continue to advocate for sustainable agriculture. So if patenting and bringing in chemicals is what will give us the necessary yield, I would stay with organic and get everyone to plant so that it will be safer and it will be less costly for the farmers. Because I think, and we've been through this in the past, the cost of planting rice should not be so exorbitant that the farmer is buried in debt before the harvest is. And so when the harvest comes, it's all gone to all of those who lent him money. So I think, to me, that's the biggest research agenda that should also be taken into consideration by Erie.
Thank you. And just to add, I think there's very little I can say which hasn't already been said. But I would like to add the variable. I think it's extremely important. But what's going to bring it home is that will it catch? And if the only way it'll catch is, are we going to eat it? In many countries, when we look at rice, and I worked in Latin America before coming here, and strangely enough, even in Latin America, I was in Colombia, you need to have white rice. And if it's not white, and if it's not polished white, you're not going to have it. So if we can produce climate resistant variables, but at the same time, we must work hand in hand with changing mindsets and cultures, and saying that if it's off-white, it's still good. It's not that it's still good, it's good. And it's not just good, it's
Might be
actually
better.
very good. And actually change the mindset, because it's not just because this is a lower quality because it's drought resistant, or it's a little off because of that. And one of the greatest problems right now is the rice fortification, and I think you were talking about product fortification, Father, earlier. And I just want to say that all of these researches which are being done also need to work with the human element of this, which is training the mindset and talking to the people and being part of it. With FNRI, we have jointly come up with a product called Momsi, which uses mung bean, and it's a fortified mung bean paste. It's homegrown. It's Filipino. Yeah, it's not from the outside. We have a very similar product, Father, which is called Plumpidos, which is from peanut based. But here, this is the product, and I think these are things, thanks to research, be it in agriculture or in fortification, that is really going to hit home if we can internalize these processes and change mindsets of the people as we go along.
Okay, thank you.
Before
No,
we move on, maybe I can just add. And ask Senator Poe to revisit the Plant Variety Protection Act, because our friend from Erie mentioned about access to seeds or genetic resources. When I was working with NGOs, their concern was access to these seeds. It's good that it has expanded. They have reached 10 million farmers, they said. But on the ground, they are actually doing researches on their own. They have traditional modes of researching, collaborating with farmers to protect their seeds and develop them, because they have many variables on the ground. So perhaps how would you link that up with researches, not only the institutionalized modes of researches, but also the researches by farmers on the ground? How do you protect them? There are sui generis modes of protecting their seeds. So perhaps you can revisit the law. It's been a while, and UN has a program which encourages farmers to introduce modes of protecting seeds and other varieties which are climate resilient. So to balance the interventions. Yeah.
One
Okay.
quick sentence,
Sure.
and one effort of that is called Masipag. The Masipag, and many of the NGOs in the rural area know this, and in my previous life, I was part of that.
And one of your board members died yesterday. That's
Yes.
sad.
Okay, Marilen, quick.
Thank you, Chai. I just would like to add something. My name, by the way, is Marilan Dangilan, and I'm from the Philippines. I am talking now as a citizen of the Philippines. Thing is this, we always think of hunger in terms of rice, agri, what else? Selling, markets, and transport. But actually, what I want to also contribute to this discussion is that hunger has another dimension which we rarely talk about, and that's trade, inequality, incomes inequality. Now, I bring this up because there's a bill pending in the Senate now, the Fair Competition Act. What I wanted to say is that vested interests in this country are actually a cause of poverty. Vested interests. As a matter of fact, that is why President Aquino, in one of his sonas, said, let's look at the cabotage law. It is a monopoly or an oligopoly of shipping, the Filipino shipping industries. And let's look at that because, and as the DA says, it is much more expensive to transport food from Davao than from Argentina. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you. And by the way, in addition to Praveen, Momsi, according to Dr. Cora Barba, will soon be available commercially.
Mamsi. So we should look out for that. Yes, the lady in blue.
Good morning. I am Dr. Evelyn Flordelis from Assumption College, San Lorenzo. And I'm very happy, first of all, for inviting me, Ritzy Rodriguez here, after they had floated the Frederico case. And that inspired me to come here. I wish we would not have more Federicas. But my comment is I would really like, because I'm the Social Development Research Officer of Assumption, I work with the president, and we're really on the planning stage now. And I would like to zero in on the Zero Hunger project where we can collaborate. You know, one philosophy, one strategy of our learning philosophy, which is transformative education, is linking academe, research, and outreach. As Secretary Soliman said, you know, it's not that easy to just send our students NSTP there to go and then work there at the community level. You know, we really organize the research part of it so that there is a flow from the academe to the outreach via the research. And this, I think, is very important that I would like to share. I think it's a time to collaborate. Maybe let's say it's, by the way, Senator Poe, we have 27 clubs in the basic education, high school and elementary in Assumption. And our NSTP is doing kids clubs on the communities in Leverisa, on those areas where we're assigned. But now that there is really a need for really gelling this together, I think we would like to give a proposal. Like, I represented this before with a group in the development marketplace in World Bank. We won innovative idea for healthcare insurance for street kids. It was a people's choice. You know, in World Bank Marketplace, there are two categories. First, the people's choice the first 2 days, and then the real thing, you know, when the scientists would work at it. But the one comment that was given is this needs government intervention for the premium. And everything else was good. Everything, that's why it was to the people there a very innovative idea to have a healthcare insurance, basically covering not only the food on the table but also the psychosocial aspects where our students can really help, the organizing part, because it's really very needed. So I would like to add to this that we have consortium. We have consortium with Miriam, with St. Scholastica. We have consortium with San Beda, CEU. And if we can just, you know, come up with something to help this Zero Hunger project.
Okay, so now this is the academe being part of the effort. Yes, with Voltaire after.
Hello, my name is Marie. I am a dietitian from Australia, currently working with the Nutrition Foundation of the Philippines. I just wanted to share with the group a project that we're currently working on, which is what we've been speaking about today. Is we're currently looking at high school students to start a Nutri-Garden program. So what this is starting gardening in schools, and we do know that this is something that has been is currently being done in the Philippines, but we're mirroring this with nutrition education. So each class, students come to class, learn about nutrition, education, the malnutrition cycle, but then go out and spend part of their class in the garden growing vegetables. The vegetables and fruits that will be grown in the garden will be then used in the TLE classes, in the cooking classes, so we're teaching the skills, culinary and livelihood skills, and utilising the crops that they grow for lunch in school. So we're piloting in one school at the moment that has approached us that has a high rate of malnourished and stunted children. However, we are broadening it to every student in grade 7, so
Which
not
school
just
is this?
Bagong Silayan High School.
Bagong Silang.
Bagong Silayan.
Silayan.
Yep. So,
where is this? Where exactly is the school?
in
Quezon
Quezon
City?
City.
Bagong Silangan.
Sorry, my accent. Sorry. So I just wanted to highlight, it's not just about, they actually have a feeding program at the moment, but the school has actually said that the feeding program is helping, but they're still finding that they've got high rates of malnutrition and stunting in these children. Up to about 45% of students in the school are malnourished or stunted. So it's not just about providing school, but about providing education to these children to make them as successful as they can as adults when they graduate. And we're currently, like I said, it's a pilot school, so we're starting it off. I've currently just submitted a grant to the Australian government, so fingers crossed they support us. But I'd be very interested to hear people's thoughts, any experiences, if anybody would want to collaborate or support or give feedback on our current program. But I do think that there are a lot that we can do in schools by strengthening school spirits, involving parents as well and teachers, and not only benefiting the students themselves but the local community, and filtering the education that they learn in the classroom back to the household. And another side note, we will, like NFP, Nutrition Foundation of the Philippines, plans to provide the seedlings and counterpart and technical assistance. But what our plans are for the program is after a certain period of time, we plan for the school to be sustainable. So using 20% of the crops grown to be sold in the local market in the barangay, to then further purchase more crops for the program to be further sustainable. So I'd be very interested to hear anybody's thoughts about this. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. UNICEF?
Thank you so much. I'm from UNICEF. Will Zek is my name. I'm the Chief of Health and Nutrition here in the Philippines. I'm so glad to be part of this discussion, to hear and to witness. I think in the future we're going to see a more paradox of overnutrition and undernutrition in the Philippines. And this is certainly something we have to accept. Economic growth, we're going there. And inequity is coming with this economic growth for sure. The more we go into LGU data, the more we go decentralized, the more we see in these inequities, having even neighbors living side by side, having kids of, undernourished and overnourished. I think what is needed if the implementation of any law should work out is the inclusion of the decentralized level. Senator Poe, you have brought the example from Singapore, which I think is great. I think the one difference we have in the Philippines is also the decentralization. And we need buy-in. If a mayor has not the buy-in, not the understanding of nutrition, that's where we have to go. UNICEF, for instance, we work with the Lady Mayors Association. That's, for instance, one forum, but there are many others where we can engage mayors and others on the decentralized level.
Okay, we actually have very great resources in this room, and just so we remain in touch, we'll have a mailing list. We asked you to register a while ago, and we got your email addresses, so we'll keep you in that mailing list, and hopefully, even after this forum, we continue working with each other, or at least talking to each other. Yes.
Yes, I'm Mina Tenorio. I'm Mina Tenorio from Likhaan Center for Women's Health. And Likhaan Centers for Women's Health is a women's health NGO, and we're helping community people, women most especially, to establish their own community health centers, and of course reproductive health and towards reproductive health and rights. But I just would like to ask our resource persons, they mentioned several times about the role of women, empowering women in addressing the issue of hunger. And based on, and one crucial key in this is also in addressing, aiming for zero hunger is sustainability. I just would like to share, I would like to ask you to elaborate more on that, because based on Likhaan's experience, 2 weeks after Yolanda hit the Eastern Visayas, our community organizers and health workers decided to, well, with the help of the institution, decided to go to Yolanda, Giwan, in first part, towards in several barangays there, and it's following the start where the people are. So when they arrive there, so they ask what they need. Especially they got in touch with the barangay, the mayors in each town that they went through, and they asked what they need. And apart from the doctors, the local doctors said that they need more supplies, family planning supplies. So that has been addressed. But the women that these organizers, community organizers were able to talk to, in most of their sessions, they would say that they wanted to have to have their own, produce their own food, because they're sick and tired of the relief foods, the canned goods, etc. And they wanted to produce their own food in their own backyard, and that's where we help them. And we also was able to help unintentionally. It's part of the what happened there was the sessions, the teaching sessions, the training sessions on became a session for psycho-emotional healing. So that was also good. They did that in 3 weeks time in Giwan. But they were able to, from this pilot thing that came from the women of Giwan themselves, they started with, they produce food for their own consumption. And then later, because their neighbors don't like the relief food anymore, so they also bought from them. But when later on they realized that they can also produce their own food, so the neighbors started planting their own gardens as well. So now it's how to, how to sustain this, how to help the women sustain this as a livelihood. And because other areas, the problem I think with Giwan, not all areas are arable. So they also need to get in touch with them. So I'm very much interested with WFPs and the DSWD. In these areas, how do you empower women? What programs can these women from Giwan avail of? So we can also ensure the sustainability. And also, as you've said earlier, it's very crucial that we reach the children before they reach the age 2. And before early school, early childhood, ECCD, and grade school, it's usually the home that's responsible for the feeding of the children. So how do we help this? And central to this home are the women. So how do we empower this, both beneficiaries, these women, these human beings, women as beneficiaries and as active players as well in addressing hunger?
Secretary Soliman?
We have a program called Cash for Asset Rebuilding. This is basically vegetable planting. Even transitional shelters and bunkhouses plant their own vegetables now. And there is capitalization that we can provide. The other one that is more under the sustainable livelihood, again, we can provide capitalization so that they can expand and grow and market the produce. So we'll just get the details so that we can help the women in Giwan and in other parts of Leyte and Samar.
Okay. Okay, a lot of hands, but the gentleman in the back, in blue.
Good morning. I'm Reggie Gillian. I'm somewhat of a crossover like Secretary Dinky. I came from an NGO for most of my 20-something life. And I'm with the National Nutrition Council. I just wanted to point out 2 things. One, as we have what we call a popularized version of the new nutritional guidelines for Filipinos. And it's now called 10 Kumainments. You may view them dun sa mga palabas sa TV and commercials. We'll also be distributing collaterals just to popularize the nutritional guidelines. I'm saying this because the absence of food is also a matter of like a battleground in terms of perspective. Not only the unavailability of food, but also since we are being bombarded with all sorts of commercialism in terms of access to food, you know. So that's it. Sundan lang po sana yung aming commercial doon sa 10 Commandments. Gusto ko ring ibigyan diin yung, there was mention of the critical stage from pregnancy to 2 years of age. But the first 1,000 days. But there was also there should be also initiative on safeguarding the infant and young child feeding. So gusto ko rin po sana mabantayan din yung mga batas na may kinalaman dun sa pag-promote ng breastfeeding. Like for example, I think there's now a need to review also the Republic Act 10028, if I may, Senator Poe. It has already been only been enacted in 2009, but I think there's one provision there that says the availment of tax incentives for those who comply with the law within 6 months of the enactment. And since I know for a fact that the IRR of the said law was only promulgated sometime in 2011, so there's already some loophole on that. So the third point I wanted to make is that I would like to follow on to the gentleman from UNICEF and WFP who emphasized the need to collaborate at the local level where the real battleground for nutrition can be found. And to put forward an initiative that is taking place now in partnership also with the WFP and UNICEF. We have what we call the Food Security Early Warning System, which was first piloted in Ragay, and now it's being piloted in other municipalities where the LGU can use this tool to predict short-term hunger through the early warning system and provide the necessary intervention. I think DSWD is also working on this as well. So that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
A quick question.
Oh, yes, please.
For the gentleman of the National Nutrition Network Council. Thank you for your comments. I just have a quick question for you. I hear your ad, 10 Commandments. Sorry kasi I'm kind of media informed, but I don't understand it. What are the 10 Commandments? Can you give it to us briefly? Because people will not take the time to go to your website to learn it.
Actually, that's the reason why po, Senator, that we popularized the new nutritional guidelines because it's a 10 guideline that
Kaya nga,
needs to
can
be...
you tell me what they are?
Well,
Memorize
kahit
mo.
ako mahirap ding i-memorize yung 10 agad.
Yun.
So,
Hindi. Pero you can, from the 10, you can get something that's the most important. I think that you should look
I think
for...
the first one po, yung commandment number 1, is to eat a variety of food that will help the person get the necessary nutrients so that they can have a healthy
Mo, imbis na ganon, yung ad agency ninyo, dapat ang sinabi sa inyo, magpakita ng malunggay. Ang malunggay, ganyan-ganyan, number 1. And then in your next ad, show another vegetable. Instead of wasting your airtime with something that's so ambiguous. I mean, this is just a comment. Another thing is, what's SB 10028? You were mentioning that.
RA 10028. It's the Expanded Breastfeeding Promotion Act of 2009.
So you said that there needs to be some revisions.
Yes.
Tax incentives for
companies that will comply on the law because companies are being asked to set up lactation station and the law says that those who will comply with the setting up of lactation station may avail of the incentives 6 months
from the law
from
is
the
published.
enactment of the law.
Okay.
Yung pong batas na-anak siya 2009 tapos 6 months prior sana doon or after.
Siguro we'll ask the BIR if they have like a memo on that already. But thank you for calling our attention. That's certainly important. And I think the Senate just recently put out our lactating room. Anyway, whenever Senator Pia talks about it, for sure Senator Soto and Senator Jinggoy will ask questions.
Okay, the lady in white and then the gentleman. Oh, by the way, just to call your attention, we very quickly set up a Facebook group of people who are here. So this is one way for us to remain in touch. And if you want to post your comments or write about what you're doing, your respective initiatives, this is one venue and one platform. Yes, please.
Magandang umaga po. I'm Leonora Lava from the Philippine Rural Reconstruction Movement. Three things lang po. First, ang sasabihin ko po is about the link between culture or values and hunger. This was exactly what we experienced when we had partners with the World Food Program in monitoring the assistance provided by WFP to the victims of Yolanda in Leyte. Now, actually, in the monitoring, we were lucky we were the one commissioned by WFP because we were not only able to see how the assistance were provided to beneficiaries, but we were also able to see other things. Like, for example, when we said, one of our major observation was that there were some, or due to this, the assistance or the purpose of the assistance was of course positive, but there came some distortion in the values. Say, for example, when we were asked, how did you already started planting after this Yolanda situation or after the effects of the Yolanda? Then what they will say, bakit pa kami magtatanim? May dadating namang assistance. So actually, when we are still now in the process of implementing projects, rehabilitation projects, but we also found difficulties in in implementing projects, because each time we ask the farmers to work as volunteers, kasi diba, we're used to self-help groups, the bayanihan, but we are now having difficulties in mobilizing farmers because they are asking for cash. Of course, the cash were for transitions, and we wanted to help because cash is really needed, especially after the Yolanda. But then, nag-iba ng konti yung values, and then we have really to work hard para yung the bayanihan spirit among the farmers will still be there. So yun yung siguro one factor also, that in the Philippines, really, di ba, sa iba't ibang rural communities, we are surviving because of the help we get from other people. That's why we still are happy. We can still smile even we have this type of disaster because of the help we get from the people around. But then having this now, the distortion or some distortion in the culture or in the values, maybe those are some things that we have also need to look into. And then also, in that monitoring we did, one observation we saw, and actually this was also part of the report we submitted to WFP. Of course, population and hunger is very much connected. Yes. After Yolanda, in one community, 8 out of 10 na women na magbubuntis ay nagbuntis. I don't know, maybe one of our observation was that of a sort of stress management. So really, and not only in one community, several communities, a lot of women got pregnant after Yolanda. And we're trying to see the connection, but maybe yes, what we observed maybe was because of, it is a way of managing stress after that big disaster. And then also, another is that the third one I would like to say is the sustainability of the initiative, the feeding program. Now, I will agree that there should be collaboration on the ground, people's participation, and LGU participation. Now, actually, we are implementing one project now in Leyte. We were able to get some assistance from Japan. This is an NGO also, Table for Two, and this is a calorie offset. For every calorie na masisave ng one Japanese, this is converted into cash and then provided to a partner here in the Philippines. Mm-hmm. I hope we can also get some ideas on how we can do that.
Yes.
Filipinos among Filipinos.
Okay.
Something like that.
All right.
And then lastly, I would agree to Secretary Soliman, being also with us in the NGO, the Masipag Varieties, gusto ko ring i-promote. Kasi our traditional varieties, they are climate resistant to time for so long, di ba? Even yung panahon pa ni Kopong-Kopong, until now, they're still existing, our traditional varieties, improved varieties. And we did not have much problem about diabetes when we were eating the brown rice before than eating the polished rice now. So, again, sort of promotion.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we have time for just one last question or comment, and I pointed to the gentleman in the back.
Oh, good morning. I'm Dr. Arman Lee. I used to work in a health center for more than a decade here in Pasay City and recently transferred to DOH Regional. My experience with hunger is more on the effect, which is the malnourished children. So I get to see children who are really so malnourished, and it's a pity to see them not included in the CCT, the 4-piece program. And you know, I also am surprised if I look at the FNRA figures. Those figures doesn't reflect there, or maybe not at the right time or fast enough. But my question is there now a concerted effort to include the health centers in case detection for these new malnourished children being detected? So I would like to throw that question to our panel.
Yes, Secretary.
First, on the, these are street children actually who are really vulnerable. We already have a modified conditional cash transfer, which we piloted last year. We're now expanding, which really means we are including the street families into the program. It's modified because there are two other elements that is not part of the current Pantawid, which is renting houses for them and intervention for livelihood immediately. Because the street families are actually very enterprising. That's why they are on the streets. They're doing lots of jobs to earn every day. So it's far more complex than how I'm explaining, because there are three categories of street families. One that has been in the street for 2 generations or 3. So that's one. And yung value system din nila iba. The iba in the sense that they want the freedom, including the carbon monoxide and everything. So talagang, hindi totoo, we really need to go through more reflection sessions with them. The other one, the second category, are the displaced. They are the ones whose houses got burned or they were evicted. And here, they really would want, you know, we did a survey. We just finished a summit in Quezon City and in Manila. There are college graduates who are living in the streets. And these families, all it needs is a 6-month support for a rental, a job, and they're on their way. And the third type are the children with no parents or do not want to go back to parents. So I'm explaining this because the modified conditional cash transfer is addressing any of those three. Now, on the health center detecting malnutrition, that's something we're working on with Department of Health, because they do help us in monitoring under conditional cash transfer visits to health centers. But right now, we're trying to work out a more, a tighter coordination on detecting malnourishment in terms of those who go to the rural health clinic. And just to say, the one I forgot to mention, that those who were advocating for health insurance, just to let you know that health insurance now under PhilHealth, all Pantawid are already PhilHealth members. Their cards are PhilHealth. But there is also now a program of PhilHealth where what they call registration at point of care. So if you're poor and you go to a public hospital, there is a desk of PhilHealth that you can register, and the no balance billing will apply immediately, because they know that you are poor and cannot afford. And maybe the NGOs can help explain this to all your partner communities. And if they are not entertained by the public hospital, I will give to Rappler the grievance redress number so that you can complain, because we have to complain and penalize the public hospitals that do not recognize the PhilHealth card.
Okay, I'm sorry, but there's no more time. Yes, because there's a class that will take over after us. I don't want to stand in the way of education. Thank you very much for joining us. Let's give our resource persons a big hand of applause. But we would first like to give them tokens of our appreciation. I'd like to call on Glenda and Zach. Secretary Soliman, Praveen, Mr. Agrawal, and Senator Grace Poe. May we ask you to come to the front, please? Thank you very much. We hope to see you again in the next forum.